The Honourable Brad Pettit.
Thank you, President. I rise tonight to discuss the ongoing youth justice crisis in WA and draw this House's attention to a series of 57 complaint letters written by the Aboriginal Legal Service of WA on behalf of children detained at Banksia Hill Detention Centre and Unit 18. I'd like to start by acknowledging Alice Barter of the Civil Law and Human Rights Unit at ALSWA, who's sitting in the public gallery, and as well as all the other lawyers who have been working tirelessly to protect the basic rights of children who are detained at Banksia Hill and Unit 18. Alice and the ALSWA team are in the midst of yet another litigation against the state government in the Supreme Court for the inhumane and unlawful treatment of kids in youth detention in WA. These people are far more than just lawyers. Day in and day out, they are supporting some of our state's most vulnerable kids through serious trauma, attempted suicide and feelings of despair, and otherwise just trying to make sure these kids feel heard and cared about. I can only imagine the mental and emotional strength it takes to do that job, and I thank ALSWA and the dozens of other non-profits, lawyers, judges, former and current public servants, doctors and other advocates in WA that are fighting for the basic human rights of kids that are caught up in the horrific situation at Banksia Hill in Unit 18. As I mentioned, I'm speaking tonight to draw attention to the complaint letters that have been made on behalf of young people regarding their treatment at Banksia Hill in Unit 18. The vast majority that have not been responded to or received outcomes. I first raised the issue of these complaint letters during the estimates hearings, Department of Justice annual report hearing in February of this year, and at the time I was made aware of 31 complaint letters. I'm sorry to say that since those annual report hearings just a few months ago, that the number has now ballooned out. I'm holding 57 complaint letters in my hand today. These complaint letters deal with some pretty horrific treatment of young people at Banksia Hill and Unit 18, including ongoing lockdowns and solitary confinement-like conditions, sexually inappropriate behaviour by officers, excessive use of force, young people forced to sleep in wet clothing or bedding or wear clothing stained in other people's blood, officers using degrading, sexualised and unprofessional language, the derelict conditions in cells and other extremely serious matters. There are 257 pages worth of complaints here, so of course I can't read them all out. But I want the members in this place to hear some of these things in these letters. In a letter dated the 8th February 2023, addressed to Christine Ginby, the Acting Deputy Commissioner for Women and Young People, there is a series of complaints from a young female on remand at Banksia Hill. Some notable parts of this letter read: 2 male YCOs picked up chairs and hit the child on the left and right sides of her head at the same time with the 2 chairs. She had lumps on her head as a result. She was then placed in handcuffs and her legs were folded up behind her in a hog tie or folding up position. She was then dragged along the floor while restrained. In the same complaint, it details of numerous instances of sexual harassment and misconduct by YCOs. The letter reads: during her most recent admission into Banksia Hill Detention Centre, the child asked the officer to leave her cell door opened. He moaned inappropriately, sexually at her, which made her feel scared. If the child screams, the officer will say things such as, "I love it when you scream." In a different letter, on behalf of a different young person from the 21st of February 2023, it reads that the child threatened to hurt himself and YCOs ripped his clothes off and left him naked in the cell with a rip-proof gown, which in his distress the child did not put on. The child was left naked in the cell from about 2:30 p.m. on the 30th of January 2023 until the visit with his lawyer the following morning. His mattress was covered in OC spray and was itchy. As such, he slept in the shower and only had a rip-proof pillow and no bedding. He was very cold all night. In a different letter from the 22nd of February 2023, it read that the child was often left in the same clothes for days without being provided fresh ones. In around mid-January 2023, the child spent 2 weeks in the same clothes, being denied fresh clothing by the staff. There are dozens and dozens more horrific anecdotes from these letters. And I hope members, and particularly the Minister and Parliamentary Secretaries in this place, are listening to just how serious these complaints are. The crisis at Banksia Hill Detention Centre and Unit 18 is getting worse, not better. And frankly, so long as this state continues with business as usual, it's only a matter of time before there is a horrific and tragic and completely avoidable death of a child in custody. The refusal of the state government, and particularly the Premier, to accept that there's something seriously wrong with the way the state government is running youth detention right now, and address this issue like the massive public health crisis that it is causing extreme harm to children in our communities, particularly First Nations ones. Look, I know we're in the business of politics, but I think none of us should be dismissing well-documented and researched neurological disabilities like FASD as excuses, or labelling predominantly Aboriginal children as terrorists when they are enduring worse conditions than most farm animals in this state. No child, no matter how bad their behaviour is, deserves to be treated this way. WA can and must do better. I'm running out of time now, but it's really important, and I wanted to make this statement tonight, mostly for the young people at Banksia Hill and Unit 18, to let them know that they are not forgotten about and that their stories are heard in this place. I thank my fellow members for listening tonight, and I hope they take the time to read some of these complaints, and I seek leave to table these letters.
Is leave granted?
Aye.
Leave is granted.